So far in fiscal year 2026, we've seized nearly 18,000 pounds of drugs at the southern border. Project that out over a full year. It's well below what we saw in 25 and 24. Progress when you consider reports are that the price of cocaine has also gone up significantly in the United States. More Mexicans are feeling like President Trump's proposal to get involved is the only viable path to dismantling organized crime.
December 3rd, 2025, 11:47 p.m. Eastern Pacific Ocean, 400 miles off the Colombian coast. Aboard a U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon surveillance aircraft flying at 20,000 feet, Petty Officer Second Class Daniel Park was staring at his infrared screen when something impossible appeared. Not one heat signature, not two. 9 distinct thermal readings moving in coordinated formation across the dark water below. His training kicked in immediately. Narco-submarines typically travel alone. They're crude vessels built in jungle workshops, designed for one-way trips carrying cocaine from Colombia to Mexico. Detection means certain capture. That's why they never travel in groups. Too easy to spot, too risky if one gets caught. But Park was looking at 9 submarines maintaining precise formation, moving northeast at approximately 10 knots. Each vessel measured between 60 and 80 feet long. Each generated heat signatures consistent with diesel engines. Not homemade motors, but professional-grade marine engines. He immediately transmitted encrypted coordinates to U.S. Southern Command. Within minutes, satellite imaging confirmed the submarines were communicating via encrypted radio with GPS navigation systems and radar detection equipment. These weren't crude fiberglass tubes. These were sophisticated semi-submersible vessels representing a quantum leap in Cartel capabilities. Intelligence analysts realized what they were witnessing. The largest coordinated narco-submarine convoy ever assembled. 9 vessels, estimated 4 tons of cocaine per submarine. Total payload, 34 tons. Street value, $2.4 billion. If this fleet reached Mexico, it would represent the single largest drug shipment in Western Hemisphere history. But there was a problem. The submarines were 400 miles from U.S.-controlled waters, traveling through international territory. And they were 8 hours from reaching zones where jurisdictions made interdiction legally complicated. The U.S. Navy had exactly 8 hours to intercept 9 submarines across open ocean. Can the U.S. Navy stop a $2.4 billion submarine fleet before it vanishes into cartel territory? Hit like, comment, and subscribe before we reveal the most dramatic narco-submarine chase in naval history. To understand what the Navy was facing, you need to understand narco-submarines. Intelligence analysts noticed something alarming. The engine heat patterns matched Chinese-manufactured marine diesel engines, YC6J series models designed for commercial vessels. The cartels weren't just building better submarines, they were buying military-grade components from international suppliers. Each submarine required a crew of 6 to 8, a captain, navigator, engineer, and deckhands. The cocaine, compressed into waterproof bricks, was loaded into every available space. Crews endured weeks at sea in cramped, humid compartments with minimal food and water. The pay? $200,000 per successful run. The Sinaloa cartel had reportedly invested $135 million to build this fleet. 9 submarines at $15 million each, a staggering capital expenditure. But 34 tons of cocaine purchased in Colombia for $140 million would sell in the United States for $2.4 billion. That's a 1,700% profit margin. Even losing half the fleet would still generate massive returns. The 9 submarine formation was calculated strategy. If Navy ships pursued one submarine, the others would scatter in different directions. Visual tracking would be impossible. Radar couldn't reliably detect semi-submerged vessels. The cartels believed coordinating multiple submarines made the fleet harder to stop. They were about to learn otherwise. At 12:14 a.m., the USS Michael Mansour, a Zumwalt-class guided missile destroyer conducting anti-narcotics patrol in the Eastern Pacific, received flash orders from Southern Command. 9 submarines detected, coordinates transmitted, intercept and seize, authorization granted for all necessary force. Commander Sarah Mitchell reviewed the tactical situation from the ship's bridge. Her destroyer was 180 miles from the submarine fleet's position. At maximum speed, she could intercept in 4 hours, but stopping 9 submarines simultaneously required more than one ship. She immediately requested support. Southern Command responded with overwhelming force. Two Coast Guard cutters, USCGC Bertholf and USCGC Stratton, altered course and began racing toward the intercept zone. Two Navy MH-60R Seahawk helicopters launched from shore bases in Colombia, carrying special boarding teams. And the P-8 Poseidon continued overhead surveillance, tracking every vessel. The mission parameters were clear: intercept all 9 submarines before they reached the 200-mile boundary where jurisdictional complications would begin. That gave the Navy approximately 8 hours. At 12:47 a.m., the USS Michael Mansour reached flank speed 30 knots, cutting through the dark Pacific. On the bridge, Commander Mitchell studied the tactical display. The submarines maintained formation, apparently unaware they'd been detected. The strategy was simple but required perfect execution. At 2:30 a.m., the first MH-60R Seahawk arrived in the operational area. Using infrared cameras, the crew confirmed visual contact. 9 vessels traveling in loose diamond formation, semi-submerged with only small conning towers visible. The helicopter circled at 2,000 feet, transmitting coordinates to approaching ships. At 3:15 a.m., USS Michael Mansour's radar detected the submarine formation 40 miles ahead. Commander Mitchell ordered battle stations. Sailors rushed to positions. The ship's weapon systems came online, not to sink the submarines, but to demonstrate overwhelming force. At 3:47 a.m., the destroyer's searchlights illuminated the first submarine. Through binoculars, Mitchell could see the vessel clearly. 80 feet long, dark blue paint, small conning tower with Chinese-manufactured diesel exhaust. The submarine immediately altered course, attempting to flee. The chase had begun. 3:52 a.m., the USS Michael Mansour positioned itself directly in front of the lead submarine and activated its loudspeaker system. The message echoed in Spanish: "United States Navy, you are ordered to surface immediately. Stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. Failure to comply will result in forceful action." The submarine crew's response was to dive. The vessel disappeared beneath the surface, descending to 20 feet. But modern Navy destroyers have sophisticated sonar. Mitchell tracked the submarine's movement and ordered her ship to match its course. Finally, realizing escape was impossible, the submarine surfaced. Its crew emerged with hands raised. A Coast Guard boarding team arrived via helicopter, secured the vessel, and searched it. Inside, 3.8 tons of cocaine, vacuum sealed and stacked floor to ceiling. 6 Colombian nationals were arrested. 1 submarine down, 8 to go. But the other submarines had scattered the moment the searchlights appeared. The formation broke apart as each vessel fled in different directions. This was exactly what the cartels had planned: force the Navy to choose which submarines to pursue. They hadn't accounted for the level of coordination the Navy was bringing. At 4:15 a.m., USCGC Bertholf intercepted Submarine 2, which had broken north. Warning shots across its bow convinced the crew to surface. Another 4.1 tons of cocaine seized. 7 more crew members arrested, including 1 Chinese national. At 4:33 a.m., a Seahawk helicopter tracked Submarine 3, racing east toward Colombian waters. When the submarine continued after loudspeaker warnings, Navy divers were deployed. They entered the water and approached underwater, attaching magnetic tracking devices to the hull. When the submarine couldn't shake its pursuers, the crew surfaced and surrendered. 3.6 tons of cocaine, 8 crew members. But Submarine 4 proved defiant. When USCGC Stratton ordered it to surface, the crew instead opened flooding valves and began scuttling. They preferred destroying $160 million in cocaine over capture. Coast Guard rescue swimmers pulled the crew from the sinking vessel just before it disappeared. The drugs were lost, but 8 more smugglers were in custody. By 6 a.m., 6 submarines had been intercepted. 3 remained at large. The sun was rising now, making visual tracking easier but alerting submarine crews they were running out of time. Submarine 5 was detected by the P-8 Poseidon using advanced radar. USS Michael Mansour pursued and intercepted it at 6:42 a.m. The crew surrendered immediately when they realized a destroyer was on top of them. 4.2 tons of cocaine. 6 crew members who looked exhausted and relieved. Submarines. 6 and 7 tried a desperate tactic. They dove deep and shut down engines, hoping to hide on the ocean floor. But sonar detected both vessels sitting motionless 40 feet underwater. Navy divers descended and placed explosive charges near their propellers, not to detonate, but to make the threat clear. Both submarines surfaced within 10 minutes. 3.9 tons and 4.0 tons of cocaine, respectively. 14 more arrests. That left 2 submarines, and they were making a run for the boundary. 7:30 a.m. The 2 remaining submarines were 40 miles from the boundary where U.S. jurisdiction would become complicated. Both vessels were running at maximum speed, 12 knots, desperately racing toward the imaginary line that represented safety. Commander Mitchell made a command decision. The USS Michael Mansour would pursue the nearest submarine, while both Coast Guard cutters converged on the other. The helicopters would provide aerial support. This was the end game. At 7:48 a.m., the destroyer caught up to Submarine 8. Mitchell ordered her ship to cut directly across the submarine's path, forcing it to either surface or risk collision with a 16,000-ton warship. The submarine tried to dive beneath the destroyer, but sonar tracked its movement. Mitchell maneuvered directly above it, maintaining position overhead. The submarine's crew found themselves trapped beneath a destroyer that wouldn't move. After 15 minutes of this underwater standoff, the submarine surfaced. Its captain emerged looking defeated and furious. He'd been less than 20 miles from the boundary. 3.7 tons of cocaine. 7 crew members arrested. That left 1 submarine, and it had crossed the boundary. At 8:14 a.m., Submarine 9 entered the zone where U.S. unilateral action became legally ambiguous. But Southern Command had secured advance authorization from Colombian authorities. The chase continued. Both Coast Guard cutters pursued the final submarine, which was now running parallel to the Colombian coast, apparently hoping to beach itself. A Seahawk helicopter descended ahead and hovered directly in its path. The pilot's message was clear. There is no escape. Surface now, or we will disable your vessel. The submarine crew finally realized the situation was hopeless. The fleet was captured. The mission had failed. At 8:29 a.m., the final submarine surfaced for the last time, 3.5 tons of cocaine. 6 exhausted crew members who'd spent the night fleeing across 200 miles of ocean. The operation was complete. December 4th, 2025. 2 p.m. at U.S. Southern Command Headquarters in Florida addressed media to announce the results of Operation Deep Strike. China claimed the engines were stolen or diverted through third-party brokers, but pressure mounted for stricter export controls. For the Sinaloa cartel, the loss was catastrophic. They'd invested $135 million building the fleet and $140 million purchasing the cocaine. Total loss, $275 million in capital plus $2.4 billion in potential revenue. The 9 submarines represented years of planning and preparation, and the Navy had destroyed it all in a single night. More significantly, Operation Deep Strike demonstrated that coordinating multiple submarines wasn't a successful strategy. It was a vulnerability. The formation made the fleet easier to detect. The 67 arrested crew members faced federal charges including conspiracy to distribute cocaine, operating an unregistered vessel, and international drug trafficking. Given the quantities involved, most faced mandatory minimum sentences of 20 years. Several crew members agreed to cooperate with DEA, providing intelligence about Cartel's submarine construction facilities. The submarines themselves, those not scuttled, were transported to naval facilities for analysis. Engineers studied the Chinese engines, hull construction, and navigation systems. Everything learned would help detect future vessels. The operation validated multi-agency coordination between Navy, Coast Guard, DEA, and Southern Command. The P-8 Poseidon that detected the fleet, the destroyer that led pursuit, the Coast Guard cutters that prevented escape, the helicopters that tracked fleeing vessels, the boarding teams that secured each submarine, every element working in perfect synchronization. As the sun set over the Pacific on December 4th, the final submarine was being towed toward a U.S. naval base, its cargo seized, its crew in chains. The ocean that cartels thought they could use as a highway had become their trap. The submarines they believed were undetectable had been hunted down one by one, and the $2.4 billion they expected to earn had been reduced to zero. 34 tons of cocaine that would never reach American streets. 67 smugglers who would spend decades in federal prison. A $135 million cartel investment completely destroyed. And a message sent to every criminal organization. The U.S. Navy owns these waters, every mile, every depth. Every vessel that crosses them does so at our discretion. The cartels can build better submarines. They can invest more money. They can devise new tactics, but they will always face the same reality. America's Navy is larger, faster, more advanced, and absolutely relentless. And when we decide to hunt you, there is no ocean deep enough to hide in. If you believe these stories of naval dominance must be told, then like this video, subscribe to Busted, and share this with someone who needs to understand that our Navy never sleeps and never stops defending American waters. Because the war on drugs is fought not just on land and borders, but across every ocean where cartels dare to operate. And in that fight, America remains undefeated.